What do we mean when we say a force? I usually ask, how would you explain a force to a fourth grader or a fifth grader, or younger or older? It does not matter. Are you going to be able to explain it graphically, for example, by drawing how a force looks like? The thing is, a force is not a physical quantity that we can describe very easily. A force is a construct that we have used in physics to explain the effects of forces. Now, we talk, for example, and we'll talk later on, of some types of forces like friction, gravity, push, pull, all of these. Electrical forces, magnetic forces, nuclear forces, whatever. In all those cases, we know of the existence of the force because of the effect that it's going to have on the motion of an object. It's essentially going back to Newton's first law of motion. If we see an object changing its speed or changing the direction at which it is moving, then we know there must be an unbalanced force acting on it. That's the way we explain that we have a force. If we see an object speeding up, we know there must be an unbalanced force acting on it. Slowing down, there must be an unbalanced force acting on it. And then we try to explain them by seeing what that object is interacting with. Now, I used the term when we talked about Newton's first law of unbalanced force. What do we mean by unbalanced force? Going back to our card here, if I have someone push it, let's say I'm going to use the unit with a force of 100 newtons. If there is no other force pushing it along that same direction, that force is going to be unbalanced. If instead I'm going to have another person push here, but with a force of 50 newtons. Now, part of that 50 newtons, since this person here is pushing in the opposite direction, it's going to balance part of this force here. So the unbalanced force is going to be 100 newtons minus 50 newtons, or 50 newtons. Now, if the two forces are equal, my unbalanced force is going to be 0 newtons, or no force. My unbalanced force, in this case, is 50 newtons towards the right. That's what we mean by unbalanced force. We can talk about unbalanced forces when we have two forces, or we can have three forces. Let's assume we have a smaller person here pushing hard at 20 newtons. Now my unbalanced force is going to be 30 newtons, 100 then towards the right, and then I have 70 towards the left. So 30 newtons left. And so on. Now, So the unbalanced force is actually a way to add up the different forces that are acting on an object and find out the portion of the force that's not going to cancel out. That's what we call the unbalanced force. We have other titles that we use for that. Is that needed? I don't know, but we actually use them. One title is what we call a resultant force. A resultant force is exactly the same as an unbalanced force. The resultant force in this case is 30 newtons towards the right. That's what we call resultant. Another term that we use for it is the net force. Again, net force is 30 newtons towards the right. Same kind of idea. The unbalanced force, the resultant, or the net force are all referring to the same thing, the unbalanced force.